You know when you're just laying in the grass, staring up, and all those stars are doing that pretty little twinkle thing? Well, that's actually just our jiggly, messy air ruining the view. Way back in 1946, this guy Lyman Spitzer had this completely wild pie-in-the-sky idea to just chuck a telescope right over all that atmospheric soup. Because honestly, trying to stargaze from down here is exactly like trying to admire a gorgeous painting through a dirty, bug-smeared windshield while bouncing down a terrible dirt road. Our air completely blocks all the absolute coolest hidden colors that space has to offer. So scientists basically begged for billions of dollars, totally risking it all, just to get one crystal clear peek at what's really going on out there. And they named this massive, insanely expensive gamble after Edwin Hubble. The guy was basically a legend who proved our universe is just out there constantly stretching and getting bigger, which, you gotta admit, is a seriously huge honor to have attached to your name. Putting this beast together took years and years. The craziest part was the giant glass mirror, which was a whopping 8 feet across. Machines spent months polishing it with these special glowing lasers until it was flawlessly, impossibly smooth. They knew that even the tiniest, most microscopic little bump would absolutely wreck the entire magic trick. So they ended up with this beautiful monster, roughly as big as a yellow school bus, just stuffed to the absolute brim with fancy cameras and these massive, shiny wings to soak up the sun's rays, powering all its onboard computers while it floats out there in the dark. When the huge launch day finally rolled around in April of 1990, they strapped it into a space shuttle and blasted off. The astronauts just gently nudged it out into the freezing void, and back on the ground, the whole world was totally holding its breath, absolutely buzzing with all the possibilities. But then they flipped the switch. Everyone was sitting on the edge of their seats waiting for the big reveal, and oh man, the pictures beaming back were just this fuzzy, embarrassing blur. Something was horribly, horribly wrong. Turns out that giant, painfully polished mirror had a devastating mistake. The edges were cut a little too flat, by a margin that was actually thinner than a single strand of human hair. But out there in the vacuum of space, that tiny little goof was all it took to completely blind our billion-dollar eye. People were so mad. Newspapers were just relentlessly roasting the whole project, calling it a giant, useless piece of floating space junk. And you can imagine the scientists just sitting there in the dark, completely heartbroken over the whole thing. But you know, space nerds, right? They absolutely do not quit. They realized the mirror wasn't completely busted, it just functioned as a bad eye. So they engineered this brilliant fix, packing tiny, light-bending mirrors into a mechanical box about the size of a telephone booth, which was basically like slipping a giant high-tech pair of prescription glasses onto a squinting cyclops. So picture this, it's 1993, and a crew of wildly brave astronauts launch right back into that incredibly dangerous freezing void. They literally go catch a floating telescope, grabbing it and pulling it directly into their shuttle's cargo bay. They were out there in the heavy darkness for 5 brutally long, sweaty days, just gingerly ripping out the busted parts and sliding this brand new fix inside, making sure it fit perfectly, incredibly tight. After finishing up all that grueling spacewalk work, they gently let Hubble float free back out into the endless blackness. And honestly, everyone down on Earth was just completely holding their breath all over again, hoping this actually worked. And man, when they flicked those cameras back on, the image that beamed down was wildly, impossibly clear. Those sad little fuzzy blobs from before were suddenly these blinding, gorgeous points of light cutting right through the dark. Hubble was finally doing its thing. It was looking deeper into the pitch-black sky than any human eye ever possibly could. It instantly zoomed way in on the Eagle Nebula, capturing these towering, beautiful dust pillars where actual baby stars are furiously being born. After grabbing those famous pillars of creation, which, by the way, are trillions of miles long, the scientists got wildly rebellious. They just pointed the camera at a totally empty, super boring patch of dark sky for 10 straight days. Everyone else thought it was a massive, ridiculous waste of time. But when that picture came back, the whole world collectively dropped their jaws, because that totally empty spot was completely overflowing with thousands and thousands of tiny, brilliant, glowing dots. And every single dot was an entire separate galaxy, proving our massive Milky Way is just one of billions. It really makes you realize we are just this beautiful, impossibly tiny little speck in the grand scheme of things.
It didn't just stare out into the deepest shadows, though. Closer to home, it was watching these violent, raging storms absolutely ripping across Jupiter. It even caught the fiery, massive explosions of an actual comet violently smashing straight into the gas planet. It even went and solved this huge cosmic mystery by tracking exactly how fast everything is flying apart. It finally proved that this wild, chaotic universe of ours is an astonishing 14 billion years old, which, is a seriously long time to be hanging around. Then it just casually started bumping into supermassive black holes. Just these terrifying, invisible dark voids hiding in the dead center of almost every single galaxy, eating whatever gets too close. And it caught ancient exploding stars called supernovas, which blast out the exact dust that eventually clumps up to make new planets. Over the years, as things naturally started breaking down in the harsh extremes of space, astronauts flew up there 4 more times. They swapped in fresh batteries, bolted on even cooler cameras, and gave it one last final hug in 2009. That totally cemented its legacy of shattering our old, dusty space guesses with cold, hard, true facts. And the way it works is wild. It races around us at 5 miles every single second, slowly steering itself by shifting these heavy spinning wheels. It actually takes all its photos in plain black and white. Then scientists down here beautifully paint those images with rich reds and greens to highlight the hidden atmospheric gases, completely turning hardcore math and science into stunning, hang-it-on-your-wall art. By spotting mysterious dark energy that's literally ripping the universe apart, tracking wild planetary weather in glowing ultraviolet light, and gazing at things billions of light years away, it's exactly like scrolling deep into the universe's old, embarrassing baby album on your phone. Hubble proves we are all just beautifully connected by ancient, exploding stardust. Someday, gravity's gonna win, and Hubble will just quietly burn up in the sky. But its files will forever be this amazing story of human stubbornness that united our whole world in wonder. It proved we're just a tiny speck floating in a gorgeous, endless darkness. So, what do you think is hiding in the black spots we haven't even looked at yet? If staring into the crowded dark made you feel a little wonderfully small today, smash that like button, share this journey with someone you love, and stick around for more leaps into the unknown.